most of the time they don't even need crafts, these beings, because there's Stargate technologies all around the universe. So sometimes they'll use crafts, but they can just get in an elevator or walk through a device in an underground base and they're popping out in another world. It's very
Awesome.
convoluted. Part of super soldiers. I've had super soldiers come to me that are really well known. I mean, going back when the super soldier stuff first came out that have seen me on missions, I don't have recall of that. But what I'll say is those things are real. In my case, I was taken to multiple bases. I know a few of them were here in Australia to where they were using trans-dimensional technologies on me to get information. The purpose why I was taken was not probably what your normal stories are with this. It was basically what I perceived as torture, but what they were really trying to do was use trans-dimensional technologies to derive information from me to the point that I was taken to what looked like a superdome inside the planet Mars, which I didn't know till Elohim told me afterwards. I didn't know where it was until later. And it was like an artificial light or a real light coming in through the top of this thing. It looked like you're looking up at a shopping center or a football stadium, but it was all sort of what I looked like, what I thought was glass panels. There was hexagon shapes on the ground. I don't know if it was metal or whatnot. I was basically out of it getting dragged by people that looked like they were in black military suits, like, you know, ready to go. Like, I couldn't tell. So they took me to a room that was like I was in a toroidal field with a band around it, with people in white lab coats in it, that later it was revealed that this was like the last time this happened, meaning being taken. This only happened once at this facility. That it was some type of technology that they had psychics in there that through the technology and me in it, they were trying to derive information from, we could say, not the brain, but the non-physical aspect. And it did none of it worked from what I was told, because the Elohim, and I've had some well-known secret space or whatever programs they're part of come to me, and what I find commonly, which is what happened with me, which is going on with them, is it's almost like they're double-edged or double spies or triple spies. Meaning, my question one time to the Elohim and the Bangs was, why can't you just go into these bases and find, you know, stop it, see what's going on? And they said that there's trans-dimensional technologies, almost like a crystal grid of the facilities that stops remote viewing them, bilocating into them, teleportation into them, even access to the stargates within them if you haven't got certain ways of getting, you know, working with certain devices. So what's happening is some people go into these projects and unbeknownst to them even, everything they're experiencing and doing, when they get out of those facilities, they could be taken by their team, and that information experiences is downloaded to, it could be extraterrestrials, it could even be angelics, and they retrieve that information like intel for what's actually going on with projects, because there is universal law in Guardians, which are those, the white greys I talked about, that apparently their job is to overlook synthetic and real stargates and transdimensional technologies to like monitor what's going on. So I've had those experiences. I've also been taken to the Pleiades, Orion, and Sirius, as well as others. I talk in the book about the Elohim teleporting me in a blue orb form. That was early 2014, or a quarter of the way into 2014. This stuff I haven't spoken about for 10 years, ever, publicly.
Yeah.
I did recently in one or two interviews, but my point is that it's not something I go out and blab. There's stuff still happening now that I may never release. But there's reasons for that, because I don't think you just need to go and blurt everything out, but it also gives me an idea of who's who.
Yeah.
And because last thing I want to do sometimes when I have an experience is go and talk about it. I don't know how people can do that. That's not judgment. But this is also where the community, through some people, I believe entities are working through them unbeknownst to them, bringing a lot of muddy in the waters of what's going on. And I think we need to be in truth. You can't, with your question you had, you can't dwell on the negative. Like, my experience, I can't put a percentage, but I wouldn't even say 5% of all intelligences are negative. But the negativity pushes on the positivity to where we as a civilization look at the world half empty than half full in situations like the cup is half empty or it's half full. It really screws with our perception.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to ask you the question, because it just felt like, you know what, it's getting a little dark now. I think I've learnt what I needed to surrounding, you know, the secret space program and the darker side of the ET agenda. So yeah, I just thought it was important to ask that. So thank you for shedding
Just be
some light on
aware.
that.
Don't
Yeah.
focus on it. Be aware of it. But what happens is, and this is where entities kick in, all of a
Mm.
sudden you realize it's been 2 months and all you've done is watch space program videos and super soldier videos and the Illuminati and the Cabal and the reptilians. And for me, it's different
Yeah.
because I've experienced it. I really
Yeah.
haven't had to research it. So I can understand people interested in it, but that is a form of mind manipulation. Now your frequency is going, whoa.
Mm.
Like what
Yeah.
eventually happens, there's a breaking free that happens, and if that's where they come from, they eventually get to consciousness as well, because there's non-corporeal, highly advanced intelligences, even in those programs, they may even momentarily experience to where it's like, whoa, there's not just ETs, there's beings from totally different frequencies, and it's like, whoa, this is where it goes to a new level, and you see them break out of that. But their come from might have been a space program or a super soldier program or what have you. So you've got to be aware, don't get obsessed, but it's like, let your soul pull you, your heart pull you to what you should be maybe going into, which you can't explain it. It's a feeling. Source speaks to you through feeling and pulls you in directions. And as long as it's not hurting anyone, but it's fruitful, there's
Mm.
nothing wrong with that. So it's going to be uncomfortable because you're going into the unknown.
One thing I want to really talk about, quickly ask you, because it kind of piggybacks within the SSP while we're on the topic. We were talking to Daryl James, and he was king of the Taigetans during one of his secret space program missions, journeys off world. And he was describing what it's like as a Pleiadian, what they do, how they eat, how they live. And I was like, you were in heaven. It feels like heaven. And then I was watching a video with you in it, and then you were talking about the Pleiadians being the future us. And I was like, nah. You mean we're going to be coming into a place of heaven, living in just pure bliss. The way they eat their food is so healthy. The way they have these bugs that decompose bodies, and I know I'm getting into like some weird shit right now, but just all of it, the way, the nature in which they live, even to how they, you know, connect sexually is also on a whole nother
The
level.
stars, like when we're talking about the Pleiades, there's a lot of stars that we can't see at this time in our frequency, the way we're perceiving it. It's not even old enough to harbor life, right? Now, when I've been on ships in certain locations, if you change frequency, other stars can even come online and other planets that weren't existing when you were in the frequency before it, and then those ones can start phasing out. So when we're talking about the Pleiadians, it's a very broad brush. It's like talking about an earthling. Well, where are you from? Indonesia, America, Australia, Canada? It's very layered, but it's something where, again, just being aware of these things. We're here to be human right now. This is the thing. We're here to be
Right.
human. We've done all this, and it's not a talk down or anything like this, but it is very interesting because there's a remembrance for some that it tickles their soul. There's a yearning for that because an aspect of them has not been them, is them right now. Reincarnation doesn't exist. Reincarnation is a linear concept to understand. What do we hear as well? All your lives are happening at the same time.
Mm.
You can't have it both ways. So the
Yeah.
way I explain this is that from the cell of source that you are, it's going fractal out, experiencing multiple experiences simultaneously. That yes, those can bring out other pinpoints of awareness to go more and more fractal, right? But from that Godhead, you can connect into all those past, present, future lives, which are really all present anyway, from that part that you can draw on it, which is about learning from those experiences and not repeating those experiences or having another chance at an experience and making it a better experience than what you're having, another pinpoint of your awareness. In my experience, very rarely have I worked with people that have come directly from source. And what you'll realize is that they've been downloaded other people's experiences in other worlds and on Earth as we could say a boot camp form level of knowledge to handle the Earth human experience. Besides that, everyone I've interfaced with, if I look into them on a soul level, they've experienced not just the Pleiades and Orion and Sirius and Arcturus and the Andromeda galaxy going out to the other galaxies, but they've gone to, like, extraterrestrials are the bottom 5% of what's out there, including us. Even if you're going up the densities of consciousness. Once you get to a certain level, and I can't prove any of this, I've been taken through this, so I can only share it. And I don't want anyone to believe me. I want you to do your own research, but there's another 90% of realms that are either thought form realms or just realms. There's no planets, there's no stars. And then you hit what I call the geometric light realms, which is fractal living geometry light, where the beings and also the angelics are coming through from that. And then you break through into darkness and then you hit source. So when I experienced that, it makes all this look like child's play, but I can understand for a lot waking up, it's like, whoa, but it's like, remember, so many people go, I'm a ninth dimensional Pleiadian. I use this analogy all the time. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but 3 months, 3 years later, they'll come back and they'll start having experiences with other beings. And what they realize is it's their old, like their soul family, their crew, starting to interface with them as they start to reach certain levels. And when they start to go to another level and they're recalling and they're doing the inner work, now the higher beings come in, and then other higher beings come in, and they're always a thought away. But, it's intriguing with the technologies that they've got and how they can live in orbs, these balls, metallic balls, and there's everything in them. There's no roads or anything. They can pick them up, move them down anywhere they want in certain sectors, not just in the Pleiades, but other cultures. There's certain ways that they can live. Their life cycles, their height, their teeth, their ears, their telepathic abilities, their level of consciousness that they're at depends on the level of consciousness of things that they're creating. Meaning it depends on the level of technology. But see, the thing is, right, all this led, and I didn't understand till recently, and I'll shut up in a minute, but to the rainbow body of Merkaba.
No, don't shut up.
This is where it really goes into, because all that's child's play. All of it's child's play, and it doesn't belittle it, but you can't get to these higher things unless you go through them. And this is why, even with the rainbow body, which was new to me in some concepts, because I've had experiences with rainbow beings going back years. But until I understood that even the rainbow body is being taught in 13 star systems, not just Tibet, and then you go into the Merkaba, these beings predominantly at the highest states of consciousness that are masters, saints and sages on other worlds or the equivalent, they could be meditating and project a physical form in front of you. They don't need a craft. Most of the time, they don't even need crafts, these beings, because there's Stargate technologies all around the universe. So sometimes they'll use crafts, but they can just get in an elevator or walk through a device in an underground base and they're popping out in another world. It's very convoluted. It's very convoluted.
Are mirrors used like that, like portals and stuff like that? I'm trying to understand.
Well, even there was a case recently, I can't go too much into it, but I had to put certain type of water on mirrors to stop dark entities coming through it.
How do you mean?
Well, people can use mirrors to send dark entities or even normal, like spirits or whatever they want, through mirrors. So what it come down to through a process of elimination, it was the mirrors these things were coming through. As soon as I did that, everything stopped.
Why are you telling me this now? Do you know what I'm about to start doing? I'm about to start looking in the mirror, looking at myself, talking to myself, learning to love myself, and you're telling me it's a fucking portal? Come on.
Well, we were talking about this yesterday. There is something about speaking to your higher self. I know when I look in the mirror, it is some powerful energy. If I'm speaking from my heart or speaking like I go somewhere. I don't know.
Because it's a portal.
It's right. We are portals ourselves, but the thing is, have you ever heard of the terminology used as egregore?
It's kind of.
So, as an example, it's something that everyone thinking is real now creates it is real. As an example, let's say you're going to a haunted location and all of a sudden there's bad activity and everyone's going in there saying, well, the story goes that a person called Fred died nearby. He was an angry dude, and now he's an angry
Sorry,
spirit running
friend.
around. Then you find out he never existed, and everyone going in there ghost hunting, saying Fred's here, he's an angry spirit. They've created it over time. And what I've said in some cases, and I've seen other investigations handle it the same way, is you tell them to start talking to the spirit as if it's a positive being. And the activity quite quickly starts to change. It was a group collective consciousness creating that, just like Tulpas in Tibet, where through their own consciousness, they can actually manifest entities.
God,
They
we
can
are
be burger
powerful.
bands, things like that. Well, that's the thing. This is what intrigues me, even with my own telekinesis and levitation experiences.
Oh, you too?
Yeah, so I've had those things, and this is why I've dedicated my whole life to the sanctuary and into human mechanics, multidimensional mechanics, because the way it's been explained is that where you're able to do things transdimensionally that not quite all the other beings can do, but we don't understand it ourselves. They didn't even understand, those that have assisted in this process, the ramifications of doing so, meaning heightened emotions. So when we're dark, we can be very dark. When we're loving, we can be extremely loving. But we have got quite amazing capabilities. And that's why I say don't look to the stars, look to the heart, because the heart's going to give you access not just to the stars, but the source and everything in between.
Mm.